Hello. Hi, Pete. How are you? I haven't got the software up to screen share yet. I'll do that, but I do have a bunch of things to talk about today. Hi, Maria. How are you? Good to see you. Or look at your icon and hear your word, read your words. I guess we don't really see each other, do we? Um, I'm going to try the Hangouts thing again. I know what I did wrong last time. It's just me being stupid. Um, so we all have our stupid moments, right? I thought we would do something a little different today. I'm going to talk about technology to talk to the other side. And in my explorations of this, I found out some interesting things. And and I had no idea there were so many things out there for that purpose, you know. And the first thing that I don't know if this is the Mandela effect or not, but about 5 or 6 years ago, I found out that Edison was creating a device to talk to the dead because he wanted to talk to his wife, I guess it was. And let's see if I can find it. It's called Edison's Forgotten Invention, a phone that calls the dead. In 1920, Americans were still reeling from the horrific casualties of World War I. We'd never been in a war as a country where we lost that many people, except the Civil War, where we lost more Americans in that war than any other war we've ever been in. It was devastating. And that's when, after the Civil War, is when Spiritism and all that mediums and stuff came to light, because people were so desperate to talk to their dead loved ones. And that's where it kind of all got jump started by this universal desire to know they're okay and to tell them you love them one more time. And the Civil War was absolutely devastating to the country. And so this is when the spiritualism all kind of exploded. And you have these sisters that make these knocking noises and con everybody. And then there's maybe some people that are actually able to get impressions from that realm. But there was a lot of fakes, and I know that Harry Houdini was really into debunking these fake mediums. And then we have Conan Doyle, the writer who did Sherlock Holmes, a wholehearted believer, hook, line, and sinker in the whole thing, maybe a little too much. So you have the opposing spectrums of the debunkers and the believers, and it was a lot of controversy at that time. Well, in 1920, as people were recovering from World War I, spiritualism, Ouija boards, and a slew of new technological inventions from men like Thomas Edison were capturing the interest of America and other places. And he was trying to devise something called a spirit phone. In other words, a phone that you could communicate, the living could communicate with the dead. I mean, this was really, really big stuff. It was big stuff. People paid a lot of money to go see mediums that supposedly were gifted in this way. But the newspapers, according to this article, and I will post the article online by Reliable Plant. I'm not sure what that is, what kind of a site it is. But that in the newspaper magazines, they covered this astounding new invention. It's in quotes in the article. And it was really, the magazine that broke the story received over 600 letters to the editor. And, that's quite a few. Uh, by 1920, Edison was a national hero, even though his personal practices toward his fellow inventors wasn't the most stellar. Uh, Magazine reporters and such would stop by to check on him and what's going on. Radio was huge. The technology of traveling wirelessly through space and time, to be able to hear it on a box. I mean, this was technology that just blew people away. Edison supposedly, who founded General Electric, had invented the phonograph. Now, we know this could be different in this timeline. I haven't checked on that, if he did or if he just made it better. And so I watch all kinds of things, historical movies and stuff that talk about this particular invention. Hi, Joanna. Hi, Scott. I was reading an article, that's why I didn't see your chat. Okay, Scott. You're gonna. Well, you certainly have gotten somewhere in your game. If anybody hasn't been watching Scott play his Sims 4, he went from dumpster diving to having a really nice house, and he shows you how to do it without having a job. That's so thumb up for him. Go see his channel. That's pretty cool. Hi, Data. I don't know. I don't know her, and I hesitate to believe everything people tell me. I kind of got taught that lesson a long time ago. Oh, that's really sad. If it's true, I'm just not saying it's not. I'm just saying we have to be careful. Anyway, so here we have Edison, 1920-ish, after World War I, which was officially over to 1918, I guess, or 1919, somewhere in there, depending on the timeline. And so we have this big spiritual craze going on in Europe and England, and I mean everywhere. It's just everywhere. Yeah, check out Michelle Opinions, and she's been asking for help because she's got some uncle's medical bills or something. Check it out and see if you think it's something you can help her with, if that's possible. Most of us don't have the wherewithal, most of us, but I understand some people are helping her, which is great. Maybe it's a different person that had an uncle. I can't keep track of them all, I'll be honest with you. Okay, so she's legit. That's so sad, though. I mean, nothing. I had one of my aunts was, she moves up to Bend, Oregon, and with her husband for a dream retirement. And she lived in Sacramento area for years, and she gets killed by a drunk driver up there. It's like, it's just really, that's horrible. And car accidents are senseless. And, I mean, here she is, moving to the country, basically. It's high desert up there. It's lovely. A lot of Native American history up there, and there's ice caves and little rivers, and it's beautiful country. That was very sad. Okay, so it was somebody else who had an uncle. Okay. It's really dizzying keeping track. Well, I sure hope that she's comforted. It's people like her, though, that who's lost a loved one, and so suddenly, that prompted a lot of people to try to talk to the dead. And I'm sure most of us would have someone we'd love to talk to. And say you have your prayers out for Michelle and her family. like I said, I'm having trouble keeping track. Yeah, but have your prayers for her and good thoughts, or manifest good things to come her way, because she probably needs them. This whole year after this happens is going to be challenging. That's from my experiences with losing a loved one. It takes a year to have any kind of feeling grounded and settled in any way, or more, depending. Anyway, I'm sorry about her loss. I would like to talk about I will talk about, let's see if I can get to them. Let's talk about apps on our phones that supposedly can talk to the dead. Because most of us have a phone. I just got a new one because mine did. It kept on rebooting and then it wouldn't boot at all. So I got a new one. And it's we have an insurance on them, so it was only $49 for that. So it's a Galaxy. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. This isn't, I'm not that regimented. God knows that, I have ADD. My brain goes off here, then goes off there, and then I just, and people go, shut up. And my brain's going, and it's like, it's just, I deal with it. Sometimes I don't deal with it as very, very well. My apologies to QP. Anyway, but there are apps you can get on your phone, and I know particular two people who shall remain nameless. Okay, Maria, I hope you come back and watch. You can watch in pieces if you don't have much time. Thanks for dropping by. Thank you so much. But they have apps for your phone, and they pulled up an app on one of their phones in this hotel room. They were out there on a adventure, going somewhere, doing some things. And they started getting, it's a haunted, well, pretty much everything's haunted where they live. It was a haunted hotel, and they picked up some intelligent responses. One of them was pretty experienced with this and wasn't freaked out. The other one, who you wouldn't think would freak out, was freaking out. And I thought that was a great story, and it was funny. But that's kind of, we assume that these things don't work, but if you think about it, and the way intention works here, in this reality, it makes sense that just about anything can give you more exposure. Joanna doesn't need apps. Yeah, some of us have weird stuff happen anyway, right? So what happens is, there's these apps, and there's a few I'm going to share with you. I have the one that's let me check. I'm still learning about my phone. I know I accidentally called people on Hangouts and going, what are you calling for? I said, because I'm an idiot and I don't know my phone yet. Yeah. I have one called Ghost Radar Connect, and that's interesting. There's an app called Spirit Radio, but it only has like 2.5 stars. There's Talk to the Dead, which is these are, I think, Android things. And then there's on iPhone, there's one that's called, not that I could afford an iPhone. Created these Roger Pingleton and Jill Bites, or Beats, I'm not sure how to say it anymore. Created the Spirit Storybox app, which say they let ghosts communicate through the iPhone. So, there's one. And the one I use is, let me see. Okay. I wish, supposed to be, aren't these supposed to be apps? Um, there's one called the Spirit Box, I guess, how to use the Spirit Box. It's Pareidolia is one or something. That's they warn you about pareidolia. There's the SV2 Spirit Vox, best Spirit Box app for Android. I mean, there's a lot of them. You just look them up, and all that. There's the real Spirit Box SB7. Remember when they first came out? They were like $300, $400, $500. $70. Around $70 now for the Spirit Box SB7. New model. That just blows me away. I remember they were just ridiculously expensive. Hi, Paul. We may be getting older, but we refuse to grow up, right, Paul? They use crystals to make the Spirit Box. I don't know how it's made. Of course, the quartz crystals, were used to make radios. I mean, we use crystals in technology all the time. People don't realize that. I think they use them in making lasers as well. Do you know what kind of crystals that are in them, Joanna? Now, I'm not endorsing using any of these things. I'm just informing you. I mean, that's totally a personal choice. I'm not trying to push people using something they're not comfortable with or they have a religious belief against. I'm just here to give you information because it's interesting. You've heard of the Ovilus spirit communication device? And that one's, let's see, Mr. Chappell. Remember him from Ghost Adventures, I think. Let's see what it says. Talks about it. I don't know how much that one is. I should look it up. Now I think this, okay. You can get the beginner ghost hunting equipment kit for $100. Really? I don't think I'd want to. Okay, now the Ovilus Ghost Box, the Ghost Box Ovilus 3 is $1,000. So you can see there's a little bigger difference in cost. You might be able to get an older one for about $400. But that's not something that a regular person is going to just pick up for fun. You have to be pretty. The iOvilus is a app you can get for your iPhone. That's interesting. A lot of things are available for iPhone, but not to Android yet, And then you have basic people that says Ovilus 3 evolution of a scam. There's, this is just, you have to be careful. I wouldn't put a lot of money into anything. Sono X10 is supposed to be the best spirit box for app for iPhone. So I'll put up these websites for you if you're interested. Most of us, Well, the rule of thumb usually is you don't do this at home, generally speaks. Huff Paranormal? No, no, I think that really um, you have to be a person that has a strong spiritual strength and aura so that you aren't vulnerable. But yeah, sensitive should be a little more careful. I'm not as sensitive as Joanna. I know that. Um, I can communicate to higher beings for help, like most of us can, prayers and whatnot. Uh, and I see with my third eye, but not with my visual eyes usually. Shielding, protection, yeah, that's so important if you do anything like this. I wouldn't not for the regular Joe, that's for sure. But like I said, this is just for information. Um, right before, there's a little tidbit here. Right before Edison, he was in a coma for a few days before he died. The great American inventor Thomas Alva Edison suddenly opened his eyes and gazed upward into space, his face illuminated with a smile, and he said, "It is very beautiful over there." When he died, his clock stopped, as did all his top executives. Um, Experience of telepathy or telekinesis, either occurring spontaneously or evoked by his experiments, hounded the inventor all his life. I had no idea he was experiencing paranormal stuff. That's new to me. Well, that's kind of interesting. But then he was there at the era where this was an acceptable interest by scientists. Not so much nowadays. Um, and there's a thing called, excuse me. Yeah, I don't know if that's an ME because I didn't really hear about it till about 5, 6 years ago, or if it was real. I mean, it was acceptable at that time. People were less skeptical of possibilities. Um, anyway, I also wanted to talk about a man, Dr. Schwartz. He has doctorate degree in psychology. Can't talk today. Um, Psychology in 1971 from Harvard. So yeah, he's a smart guy. He's well known and well respected psychologist. Assistant professor of psychology at Harvard before moving to Yale. I mean, this is not a Joe Schmo. This is the real deal. This is a real man of respected ability and intelligence. And he was also director of Yale's Behavioral Medical Clinic. Currently professor of psychology at the University of Arizona. Oh, he went there to semi-retire. That's almost a stereotype, isn't it? Schwartz has published more than 450 peer-reviewed scientific papers, including 6 chapters of one of the most highly respected periodicals in the world called Science. This is from my Exploring Our Parallel Worlds book, which I recommend you get because it's like every chapter is a pearl. It really is. He's the author of, or co-author of, 11 academic books. Schwartz. Let's see what his first name is. Dr. Gary Schwartz, Schwartz. Yeah, there's a T in it. I mean, he's not like what they call a flighty new ager, they're saying, Even I'm not as flighty New Ager as some. I'm not really a New Ager. I did not jump into that pool of water that much in the 70s. I was pretty conservative. Um, he worked in recent years on what he calls the soul phone. So we have someone respected in science and academia working on talking to the dead. So here we have a revival of an interest that of scientific people in the scientific community exploring this question and this interest. In short, the soul phone is a device that seeks to create direct contact with the spirits of the dead. Obviously, that's pretty much the name of it. And the interesting thing is, and you'll see a correlation to a lot of stuff that we hear these days. The device uses one of the most fundamental particles in the known universe, photons of light. We've heard a lot about light lately. I don't remember which one it was. I don't remember, Joanne, which one it was. We might have to revisit that sometime and have a talk on that and see if history's changed on that one. So he's using photons of light to send messages in the realm of the dead, which Schwartz says he might aptly describe as a parallel universe. What do you think of that? Parallel universe. Which kind of, I think, makes a little sense. He said that the photon is the perfect choice for sending information back and forth between universes. Photons are smaller than atoms and have no mass, although it has energy. And in physics, energy equals mass, which sounds like it's a conflict of information. But instead of mass, it has energy. So thus a photon would seem to have the perfect attributes of communication between worlds. It was Harvard back east? Yeah. Not surprised. Not surprised. It is weightless, yet can carry information. That's what he's saying about the photons. Schwartz has developed a prototype of his soul phone, which is made up of a photon detector. Get this, called a silicon photomultiplier system. Now, I will be giving you a test later to see if you remember that. Just kidding. Schwartz connects his photon detector to a computer, which generates a graphic that shows how many photons strike the device at any given moment in time. So it's like the split, kind of like that experiment where it's either the slots, it either it's particles or waves. It's kind of like that kind of concept, I think. Oh, Dana, thanks for letting me know. That's interesting. Night vision goggles are silicon photomultipliers as well. That's true. We wouldn't have cell phones. We wouldn't have a lot of things going on. So he put his photon detector inside a sealed box, which in turn encased inside another sealed box. I hate to see what he gives away at gift time. You probably have to open 50 boxes and find a little present in the very middle. Hi, GVK. We're talking about communicating with the dead and the various technologies that are out there to try to do this. Well, nobody's ever dead. That's a thing. Whole concept of death is we don't really die. We just move. So, the whole idea that, there's some people that believe that it's nothing after we die. And it's like, that's their privilege. I think they'll be surprised. Guess what? You're wrong. Anyway, he puts this photon detector in a box and then in another box It keeps out all normal sources of light or stray photons. Thus, any photons that might be detected inside the box could not be coming from our normal world or dimension. That's the theory. Thus, they would have to be sent, that's in quotes, to the device from another place, another realm, another dimension, another universe, a parallel world, or whatever. He's attempting to prove that the spirits of dead people can send messages to us in our world by causing photons to strike the photo multiplier system inside the sealed boxes. And this is where he parts company with most of the mainstream scientists and academics. He employs the services of a medium. So this is where the scientists that he knows and stuff are going, whoa, not going there, dude. I'm sure they say it differently. Through a medium, he has learned to trust by working extensively with her over several years. Schwartz has developed an ongoing relationship with the spirit of a person whom he knew while she was alive, a prolific writer by the name of Susie Smith. After Susie died, Schwartz made contact with her through a medium and maintained a relationship with her. Schwartz asked the deceased Susie Smith if she'd be willing to participate in his photon detection experiment. And she agreed. He calls her one of his spirit experimenters. I'm sure that goes over well with his peers. He also enlisted the help of his mother-in-law, Marcia Eklund. And he must have actually liked her, who had died a few years previously. The third spiritual experimenter partner in his study was an entity whom Schwartz believed has never lived as a human being on our physical plane. This being he calls the angel Sophia. Maybe his mother-in-law said, "You're not keeping me out of this one, dear." Don't mess with mother-in-laws. He classifies her as an angel because he believes her to be a purely spiritual being, similar to that of our spiritual notions of what an angel is. Okay, so he sets up his equipment, and he explains the concept of experience to his spirit team through the help of a medium. He sets up specific target times. Time is very important when you do anything like meditating. Time and place. Set up an energy in a place that is conducive to spiritual connection. When you meditate in the same place at the same time. I'm not sure why this works this way, but it does. I used to meditate at certain times during the day, and I would have visionary kind of meditation experiences. So that was, I figured that must be why. So he asked each one of them to attempt to spike the graphics detector on his computer readout by sending photons from the spirit world into this at specific times into this box. And there were a series of, excuse me, I tell you, I always get hoarse. Woo-woo time. Don't ask me about calendars and time. I think it's all, created to distract us. Anyway, in short, a simple experiment showed a clear-cut fashion that Schwartz was making legitimate contact with people who had passed on to the other side. So they were influencing the photons in the box. Skeptical observers, this is a funny part. Skeptical observers of the experiment attempted to explain away Schwartz's amazing results with suggestions that were just equally as paranormal as the original hypothesis. For example, they said that Schwartz himself has influenced the photon detector with his own subconscious mind, or that the medium was somehow responsible for the graphic spikes in photon activity, but Schwartz dismissed this as desperate and ridiculous. How, he asked, could the subconscious mind generate photons and send them into a photon detector sealed inside two light-proof boxes? In science, the most simple and elegant explanation for events is often the correct one. It's Occam's razor, you know. This experiment could not be more simple and straightforward. Schwartz asked the spirits of the departed to send photons to the detector at a series of preset times, which they agreed to do. The device clearly showed that the messages were sent when the spirits said they would be sent. Yeah, you know, and we as beings are sensitive to light and energies and vibrations, and they're not allergies. These things are not disconnected from each other. They're all on a spectrum of the same thing. And so this isn't surprising, you know, that this can be done. Okay, let's go to the next guy. It's called ITC. Let's see if I can find my... ITC was set up by, let's see if I can find who it is. ITC is called Instrumental Transcommunication, and it's an advanced version of EVP. We've all heard of EVP, done with digital or little tape recorders. I have one of each. I've never actually attempted it, as I don't want to do it at home. I need to go somewhere else to do it because it's not a good idea to, I just keep my home protected and isolated from that sort of thing if I can. The results of recent ITC experiments imply that when people die, their consciousness is sent to a parallel world that has some real, describable physical characteristics. That is because ITC employs electromagnetic concepts of wireless communication, much like the wireless airwaves used in our contemporary smartphones today, which probably includes several kinds of energy, I would say, including photons and electromagnetic. And yeah. One of the leading researchers in ITC is Sonia Rinaldi of Brazil. Now, Brazil has a very strong spiritist community where they believe in Jesus and all the saints and everything, but they're also very believers in communication to the spirit side. So they're always meditating and praying, and I mean they're kind of a different flavor of spiritual, and they're very interesting people. And so I'm not surprised this woman is from Brazil. She has a master's degree in the science of religion and began experimenting with instrumental transcommunication in 1988. Oh, my nose itches. In 2000, after years of experimenting with various methods, she gathered a team of electronic engineers, physicists, and scientists, and has come up with a reliable and repeatable way to communicate with the physically departed, using a telephone and a computer. Think about that. That's wow, Data. We're in a solar-induced geomagnetic storm influx for the next 2 days. Great. First telephone invention, GPK says, was a photophone. It's transmitted voice through light. Interesting. You guys are a tremendous resource of information. I don't know. I certainly don't know everything, but together we know a lot, you know. Between what you know and I know and whoever watches knows, that's a lot of information. And back to Data Junkie, the Navajos say 3 a.m. is the woo-woo because when the Earth's magnetic shield is weakest at your location. Oh, interesting. And then there's a religious belief that it was the third hour that Jesus passed on the cross and stuff like that. So, I mean, numbers seem to have meaning here, and I guess they have their own vibration in some way. Everything's connected. I mean, you can't just say this is this over here. It's all on a spectrum of strangeness, to be honest with you. I'm not happy with solar storms. I don't like them because usually there's something weird happens. Um, yeah. Sounds like you're a real lover of technology data, that you'd like to study this stuff. Anytime you have anything that you knew or anything, just you know, bring it up or email me, and I'd love to research it too. Okay, so she set up a method, this Rinaldi gal, with for people who are seeking conversation with the dead loved ones may speak into a telephone to ask a series of 10 questions. Their voices are recorded by a computer microphone, which stores the sound into the computer's hard drive. A few minutes of silence are left between each question, kind of like EVPs when you say wait and listen. This is to allow the spirits on the other side to make their responses and have their voices recorded on the computer. When the audio file is played back, the results are nothing less than astonishing. Voices of the people in spirit are clearly heard on the recordings and can easily be recognized to be the voices of those particular people, of the deceased. The voices are obviously responding to the specific questions asked. As further proof, the people are talking to the person they once actually knew whilst alive. The spirits reveal information that could only have been known by the closest family and friends. So then you have the question, okay, is this actually the departed, or is this the common consciousness somehow getting connected into that has lots of information on all of us because we're all connected to it, like a network, I guess? I mean, we have to think about all the possibilities, that it's not what we think it is, but it could be. I always try to reserve some skepticism because, these things can't be proven. Anyway, so she's gone further, though. She's developed a way to capture images from the other side. Now, we've seen people that can, on the internet back in the 70s, could create an image on a sealed canister of film. Now, I personally think they're somehow connecting to the common consciousness and affecting the film or something like that. But it's been a thing that's happened that we've seen. But she says that they're capturing images from the other side. She calls them trans images. Of course, that would be considered a different thing here if you said trans images. Do not Google trans images. You heard it from me. They show faces of people that have passed on, as well as other background scenery from afterlife locations. These trans images are obtained using a variety of standard computer imaging software. But you can find information on all this on the Association of Transcommunication site and the Academy for Spiritual and Consciousness site. The possibility, now this is just a book, Mr. Bullivant says, the possibility for fraud and hoaxes has all been but eliminated. The methodology and approach is highly professional and scientific, with tight protocols that reduce the chance of alternative explanation to near statistical zero. I would like to investigate this a little more. It's interesting. All this rigorous evidence points to one and only one explanation, that under the right circumstances, the dead can be contacted with modern electronic communication devices, and those in spirit can send messages back in return. Like the tree in Pandora. I'm trying to think what the reference is. I'm drawing a blank there. It's probably just me. Everyone else knows what it means, but I don't. Um, oh, okay. Okay, I understand. Excuse me. I may have to put in a cough drop because and allergies here in California are pretty bad. So data says, I suspect science has barely scratched the surface on light. I believe that. On light and on crystals, on, a lot of things. I suspect photons also have ghosts that can be reactivated, for loss of better words, kind of phantom limbs. Interesting. Well, I had a friend who's passed away a year and a half ago who was quite psychic, and she was in my Reiki group. And she could see spirits inside crystals. She could see spirits in waterfall pictures. She was kind of like Bela, who sees things in photos too. Which I was surprised to find out that he was. I always knew that Scott Bela was very spiritual, essentially, and that he's an empath. And most of us who are empaths suffer from chronic problems health-wise, because this world is not friendly to empathic people, energy-wise. But I mean, he sees things in pictures, and she could see things in a stone, in a crystal. She said, well, there's this little spiritual being here, and here you see them. I'm going, I don't know. Okay. I miss her dearly. She was such a source of inspiration and insight. What all this suggests, the book says, wherever or whenever the afterlife is, it is someplace that is real. It is a location that has definite physical reality, and it fits all the definitions we have of a parallel world or parallel universe. And for the first time in history, solid mainstream scientists with established credentials are investigating this, about the doorways or the bridges that span the chasms between these universes. Seems increasingly likely that no human being truly dies. We just continue on in a parallel world. There's even people that say people that are Mandela affected are dying and moving to the next reality. I don't know if that's true. But while most of us have had experiences where we could have died, or we had a near-death experience or something. And so I think that there may be some possibilities. I think we're traveling through timelines, collecting pieces of ourselves as we go. And then when we're all done, we'll be all enlightened and all that. And we'll be in another reality that's better, I hope. One has hope. Gotta never lose hope. Yeah, and the scientists are talking about multiple dimensions, infinite parallel worlds. And yet, when we talk about what we're experiencing, people laugh at us or think we're crazy. It's like, the scientists, though, the quantum physicists are. I bet it would be interesting if any of them are experiencing this and what they think, if they'd be brave enough to admit it, because it could be career suicide to do some things. I know how a lot of people don't like to show their face here because they know their work, they would suffer at work if anybody knew that they were experiencing, But I think more and more of them are admitting it. You're right, Joanna. And I'm hoping this will give us some legitimately publicly, so that we're not, derided by so many. Yeah, and since we're all connected to our other selves, I believe, as well as to each other. So, yeah, I've met Cynthia Sue Larson. She's a lovely person. She is such a lovely person. And this was before she got big. And I was at a psychic fair and went to her little class, and it was so nice. She's so bubbly. She just exudes this joy. I mean, to be in her presence was just delightful lady. And she's finally talking about Mandela effect. She called it other things, and now she kind of, yeah, she found out she died in another timeline. That must have been shocking to have, you know. It's just proof, though, that we never really die. We are eternal beings. Reality here is a temporary place for us. This is not our final home. We're here to learn and grow and connect and learn to work together for the common good. I think that's a big part, that those of us connect consciously to make positive changes in whatever reality we're in, because we can. We have that power. And that may be why sometimes we're attacked or discriminated against, because once we figure out how to connect to each other and to engage in positive change, that certain people might be threatened by that. Yeah, when we dream. Oh, yeah, I dream of parallel realities where I've made different choices, major choices. I married to someone else. I may have a different life, and maybe I'm thinner. I'd have to manifest a thinner me. um, yeah, it's like, and when you get into a new timeline and you find out people that liked you don't like you, and people that didn't like you like you, it's like you just go, why do they like me so much? I don't understand. That I'll just sort of look at them like, what? Or somebody will be really mean to you and just going, what did I do? You know? Yeah, shifting. A lot of people thinks the world we're in is changing. No, we're just moving. I'm moving on. I'm going to a new timeline. And we had a couple of big shifts a week or so, a couple of weeks ago. And my scar's looking better. It doesn't look quite as proud and sticking up, and the modeling is much more like it's supposed to be. Yeah, some of us will do better than others when there's a shift. But I don't know what to say about that. I mean, your body's not being nice to you. It's like a lot of us suffer from all kinds of weird stuff. Yeah, I'm 64, and I mean, I'm starting to feel more sharper here. And I'm trying to get my body to be able to function better. And that's the hardest part. The body. The brain's fine. The consciousness, the intellect, the soul, we're good. But the body, oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so sorry, Joanna. Your heart's not doing well. Well, maybe concentrate, do an affirmation, a positive affirmation about your health in some way. Florence Scovel Shinn. She was a manifester. She was, people would come to her to have her speak the words. You have to say it out loud, by the way. Sorry. But you have to say it out loud. And maybe I'll do a stream on Florence Scovel Shinn. I'll type it out. Hopefully I'll remember how to spell it. I have one of her books, and they're tremendously wonderful affirmations that will help you bring positive energies and health changes to you, because we do have this power. No kidding. That means your doctor's affected. That's gotta be. I wonder what he's experienced. I mean, he's like, really changed the films. Well, he's in denial. But we'll have a stream on how to manifest, maybe. And Florence Scovel Shinn is one of the early manifestors who was very successful at helping people. And it's the kind of magic that we can do. That's a very positive thing. Of course, people do negative manifesting. And that's a very bad thing. You don't want to do anything. Never try to get revenge on anybody, because I tell you, it'll come back to you. Karma's a bitch. So, well, I'm on the healing spectrum of energies. So I found that out in a strange way. Um, I had experiences online that were very strange. And I'll make a note to tell you about them next time, because I don't want to go too long, because I know that there's other people that want to stream and you want to go see them. So I'll write a note so I remember to tell you about it next week. I had some pretty weird things happen. And, whether you believe me or not, well, they still happen, whether you believe me or not. So, Joanne, what you are is a protector and guardian. That's different than a healer. And, we need all kinds. And if we work together, we can take care of a lot of things and help things get better. Because each of us have gifts. We do. Every one of us have gifts to share, whether they're obvious or not. If you can influence auras, you can do a kind of healing. The kind of healing you're doing isn't physical so much, although it could ultimately have physical changes if you help their auras to be healthier, because that'll in turn affect the body. But you're healing them psychologically. Okay? And that's an amazing gift. Because these people in these timelines we're going through, they're suffering a lot. And they don't have some of the understanding of spiritual stuff that some of us who are shifting have. They're just, flitting about trying to make it all work without realizing that they have to develop their spirituality before they can have kind of success that they want. Or they think that joy is in the physical things they amass, and they just don't understand. And they need people that have a spiritual understanding, regardless of your religion, because it has nothing to do with religion. Because you see religious people that are spiritual and some that aren't. And you'll see non-religious people spiritual. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the quality of your spirit and the focus of your spirit. Yeah. I'll have to tell you about whenever I was doing my meditations, guess who I had for a guide? I had Silver Eagle, a well-known medicine person who's a spiritual guide. I went to a Native American room and explained to them what I was seeing in my visions. And they said, "Oh, that's Silver Eagle." And I have this much Native American, it's just a little tiny amount in me. And they said I was one of them after they heard my story and my experience, my Vision Quest story. They heard those two things, and I was family. It was like I was so shocked, so shocked. I said, have you looked at me? Do I look Native American to you?" "Oh, we have that kind too. They have Native American." Yeah, I have, I just have a little. I guess a little dab will do you. Well, I think you're awesome, Joanna, and I sure hope your health gets much better quicker. Send prayers her way, good thoughts, because she's been suffering with health issues. So keep each other in your thoughts, in your hearts. Be kind. Hang in there. And I'll talk to you next week. Maybe we'll talk about how to manifest. And you have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.